Okay, can we start?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, am I audible now?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Before?
Yeah, before also we were able to hear you.
Yeah, before I was trying to connect a mic, but I was not able to hear anything.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so I should not connect that mic. Okay. Okay, any doubts from yesterday's discussion?
So I have
Any
a
doubts?
query with yes, sir. So I have a query with regards to the proposition. I mean, like in the last slide, we had talked about the 5 continuous changes that was given by the Marx, right? So about the dynamic model of the society is based on the following proposition. So those propositions, will that be part of this theory when somebody
No,
asks,
no,
like,
no, no.
explain this theory?
That's
No,
not
right?
part of the. That's not part of theory.
Yeah.
That we just
Okay.
interpreted that.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's not part of theory, but you can finally consolidate it like that. That is your own
Yeah.
interpretation.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay, not in Marxian terms, but this is what exactly Marx is talking about through his theory.
Yeah, exactly.
Sir, can you
Okay.
explain that?
So, any other doubts? That theory?
Hello.
Tell me.
Sir, can you explain the fourth point of the last PDF? Continuous struggle to resolve the contradiction of the preceding stage, the process which will end in communism. So, can you just repeat that point?
That means any society there will be some contradictions. Like in ancient mode of production, there were some contradictions that were in terms of exploitations, etc. To resolve that contradiction, the slaves revolt. So that will result into next mode of production. That is feudal mode of production. And then again, there are contradictions in that. So to resolve that, the serfs will revolt. That will enter into another mode of production. And then in capitalism also, this contradiction is there between workers and capitalists. And the workers will revolt and will enter into socialism, and finally it will culminate into communism. So it all depends on the contradictions present in the society.
Okay. Okay, sir.
The contradictions are the reasons for this class struggle or the revolt by the have-nots against the haves.
Okay, sir. Clear.
Yeah.
So,
Can you grant us
Yes.
the permission for doing the recording so that we can refer it later?
I'm anyway giving this videos. Don't worry. I'm recording here, so I'll give the
Okay.
videos.
Fine. No problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that you will get the edited videos.
Okay, sir. Got it.
Okay.
Sir, I have a doubt. Sir, so what does naturalism and
I don't know. I don't have any problem in you recording also. If you wish, you can record, but I don't know how. What should I do for that?
So basically,
Okay,
when I'm clicking on the record, it's asking for that you need to have the. I mean, like, please request record permission from the meeting host.
But
That is
I am
the
not
purpose
getting any record permission, any such questions here. But I'll give you the video. Don't worry. I'll give you all the
Sure.
videos.
Okay. No problem. No problem. Thank you.
sir is
Shubham, tell me.
sir, is naturalism same as natural science?
Naturalism is actually a concept of natural science. It's like material reality is supreme for everything.
Okay.
So they have given importance to material reality. That is the reason for social change and everything. So it is almost similar to the natural science principle. It is actually from natural science. Naturalism, empiricism, inductivism, all we have drawn from natural science.
Okay, sir. Sir, you gave one question day before yesterday, sir, about individual and society. So, sir, in intro, sir, do we have to write that individual and about society? Do we have to write about individuals are
You can
patterned?
directly start. You can directly start by saying production. You can start with production according to Marx. Production is essential for the survival of human being. Directly, you can start any thinker's question. You can directly start. I've made this point yesterday also.
Okay, sir.
Directly, you start.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Anything else? Any other doubts?
No, sir.
Yeah, who's this? Lalita? Who's this? A man, who's this? Lalita? Okay, so today we will be starting with next theory, class and class struggle. Okay, so when we discuss about class and class struggle, we will try to first what we'll do is we'll try to understand what is class. Okay, so this is how I'm going to proceed. First, we will talk about what is class. So we will understand what is class. Then we will go for some concepts like class polarization, very important concept, class polarization. Okay, and then we will talk about again very important concepts like class in itself and class for itself. So these are actually asked as questions. This was asked as question, this was asked as question, and then one more concept, that is true consciousness and false consciousness. I've given you a glimpse of this yesterday, but today I will discuss this in detail. Then, so first part is actually related to class. These all are related to class. It's all about understanding of class, okay? And within class. So then we will move towards class struggle. So we will see the reasons or the causes of class struggle, and then we will see how the mechanism of class struggle is actually happening. Then the mechanism or the process of class struggle. So we will see the process of class struggle. So this is how the theory is going on. Okay. So first we will be talking about the class. We will try to understand what is class. Then this concept, class in itself and class for itself. Then what is class polarization? Okay. Then true consciousness, false consciousness. Then the reasons for class struggle. So here we will enter into struggle. We will see class struggle. So the reasons, there are three reasons, very easy. You can connect it easily. Then how is it producing, how it is actually proceeding in the, why this struggle is happening and who's leading the struggle and all those things we'll discuss. Okay. So we will start with class. Marx is talking about class everywhere, but actually Marx defines it very scarcely. No proper definition of class we can see. But the better understanding of class is in this term, like your position in the production process. Position in the process. So everything is actually connected to production. So class is generally talk and have classes which exist in society. Okay, haves and have nots. Now, if you mode of production. Who are the haves and have-nots? Ancient society?
Master and slave.
Can you tell me?
Master and slave.
Masters are the haves and slaves are the have-nots. In feudal mode of production?
Lords and serfs.
Lords and serfs.
Lords and serfs. Oh, my bandwidth is low. Is there any problem in internet from my side?
Yes, sir. The video was
Yes,
getting
sir.
stuck.
Even the sound also?
Yeah. Both the audio and the video.
Yeah, from morning onwards, I'm facing this problem. So, actually, I've requested for a broadband connection. So, tomorrow or day after tomorrow, I'll get it. Then it will be solved. That will give better speed. But now, even morning class also, I was facing this problem today only. So, is it okay? Is it manageable, or we need to meet some other day, like tomorrow or day after tomorrow?
Manageable.
Manageable.
Okay. So then I'll try to make it slow. So feudal mode of production, lords and serfs. Then capitalist mode of production, haves and have-nots are?
Bourgeoisie and proletariats.
Capitalist and the workers.
It is a capitalist and workers, or the bourgeois proletariat. Okay. So any society you will see upper class and lower class. Like upper class is the haves, lower class is the have-nots. So he broadly talk about only two classes. And one of the most important criticism that when we talk about in critical analysis is this: Marx is ignoring the other classes. But if you talk about capitalist society, which class is more important? In the present society, which class is more important? Which class is having more role in society? What do you think?
Middle class.
Middle class is having more role in society, not the upper class, not the lower class. Right? Middle class playing the vital roles in society. So actually Marx failed to visualize this. This is the criticism. You don't worry about these criticisms now. Just try to understand the theory. I have just raised that point. Some of you might be thinking about that. So I just told that point. That we will be writing as a criticism by quoting Weber. Okay. So he is broadly talking about haves, have-nots, two classes in all societies. But that may not be the case. Okay. He is actually ignoring the middle classes, which is getting more strong and stronger day by day. Now, this is how Marx defined. Marx defined like this: position in the production process. So we all are part of production process. So your position in the production process is your class, like managers, like clerks, etc. And Marx also says something: when you're born in classes. That means, what is your class? Your class is basically your father's class or mother's class, whatever it is. Okay. So what Marx says is, just as you cannot choose who's your father, you cannot choose your class also. When you're born in class. Then you may be able to change it later, but when you're born in classes, you cannot choose the class, because you're born for a poor person, you belong to that class. You're born for a capitalist, you belong to that class. Okay. Then I'm not saying Marx completely ignored the middle class. What Marx says is, this is upper class. Upper class always very less known. Now, they will be very less in numbers. Like minorities, 1%, 2%, rich people will be there. So this is haves, minority, very less. And this is have-nots, majority. Okay. And Marx also talking about some middle classes like this. They will be there. Some middle classes, although they will be there, but what will happen is, with time, these people either will become this or they will become this through a process known as bourgeoisization. Means you are becoming bourgeois, you are improving your status and you're becoming the part of them, or the process of proletarianization. That means you're becoming poor. So what Marx says is, there may be some intermediate classes like this, but over a period of time, through the process of bourgeoisization and proletarianization, they will become either upper class, that means haves, or have-nots. And this entire process, this process is known as class polarization. Okay, that means this middle classes is polarized into any of the two. That name itself will tell you polarized to any of those two groups. So Marx is talking about different other groups like Marx is using these terms in his text like petit bourgeois. Petit bourgeois means like the small traders, etc. They are not the big trader, big capitalist. In between, some people will be there. No, that's what petit bourgeois. Lumpen proletariat means very poor, poorest of the poor. So he uses these words and he is making references to these people. But ultimately, what Marx says is all these categories will be like this through class polarization, which involves bourgeoisization and proletarianization. You will be grouped into either haves or have-nots. Is this clear?
So one question here. So in this process, only the middle class will be involved, right? Either they can uplift or they can downgrade, right? Only the middle class will be involved in this particular stage, right?
Yes.
Okay.
You mean to say there is a possibility that have-nots will also can be haves?
Not exactly, as you told that in the middle person. Okay, so either by the proletarianization they can come to the lower class, or the bourgeoisization they can go to the upper class.
Exactly. That's what I'm
So,
saying.
so in that case, only middle class will be involved in this particular process.
Marx is not using the word middle class. That is for your understanding. You can use intermediate class is what Marx saying.
Yeah, that's what.
That's what stand between here. So you need to use the words carefully when you're writing Marx. You should not be writing middle. Casually you can talk and casually you can say. So you don't know about that. That's why you are using it. I'm making it clear, not only to you, for everyone. When you're writing it, you should be writing there may be intermediate classes according to Marx, but that will be culminated into haves or have-nots. Each and every word that you're writing in sociology is very, very important.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So here, class polarization. I hope you understood this concept. This was actually asked as a short note. So this is what you need to write. If the question is about class polarization, you need to write what is class, what are things we have discussed, and definition of class, and this process of class polarization. That's it. And you can write one criticism also here. Then the answer is complete. You may worry, you may have some confusion, or you may be worrying now that only with this, how can I write a 10 marker, right? This is more than enough for you to write. So how will you write? I'll show you how will you write if this question is asked. You will first talk about class. And you will give examples like in capitalism, like in feudalism, like in ancient society. That itself will be around 50 words. Then you will talk about the definition, that position, a person's position in the. So you will write about the definition, position in the production process. Then you will explain this bourgeoisization, proletarianization, and then you will draw the diagram. Okay, and then you will say this is what class polarization. So your answer is done. Now to add more value to it, you will use Max Weber. And you will just raise one criticism. Then the answer is complete. You will get 8 out of 10. Nobody can stop you. There's a very objective answer, and nobody can stop you giving this mark if you're writing like this. This much, if there is in your paper, nobody can stop you from getting 8 mark. And you can write in your words. You don't want my words. You can talk about Marx is talking about class. Marx is talking about different haves and have-nots in all societies. These are the haves, these are the have-nots, and this is the definition, and this is how the process is happening. Bourgeoisization like this, and proletarianization like this, and the entire process is what class polarization. But you know what Weber says? Weber says somewhat more logical. Weber says this is not the case. Weber says this is what actually happened. This diamond shape, or rather, this is more visible and this is better to understand the society. Can someone explain what does this mean? What Weber mean by this? These two shapes? Not this or this is possible?
So I think middle class.
Proletariat will come
actually
to
here middle class is widening. The contribution of middle class is more, number of middle class is more, so middle class is widening in both these diagrams. So Weber actually talking about middle class. So this diagrams also you can use, and then you will be writing the best possible answer in that question. At this point, when I'm talking 4 types of middle class and all, you don't want to write here. 4 types of class Weber talking about, that I'll discuss later when we discuss about Weber. That you don't want to write Mayank. Here you just make one criticism. Yes, Sayantan, tell me, what is your doubt?
Sir, so according to Marx, initially there are 3 classes, which finally
No,
culminates into 2 class.
no. Marx is always talking about 2 classes. Sometimes these classes will develop in between, but
So,
there is no permanency for these classes.
so sir, how should we write this, express this in our paper?
How Marx says there may be some, according to Marx, in every society, broadly 2 classes. You are not saying only 2 classes.
Okay.
That language that we are using is, when I am giving the PDF, I will make it clear. Marx
Okay.
says broadly 2 classes in every society. That is haves and have-nots. There may be, again you see the word may be some intermediate classes.
Okay.
Not necessary also, and we are not ignoring the possibility also. So there may be some intermediate classes, but ultimately one thing is sure, that they will culminate into any of this.
Okay, sir. Okay. Clear. Thank you.
So only through words you can convey these things. No, that's why you need to be very careful, and you need to write the test so that things will be clear. Otherwise, you need to read between the lines. You need to understand between the lines that I'm saying.
Exactly.
So in case of short note also, we need to write in passages. So we should not write any of the answer in point-wise manner.
No, don't write point to point in sociology, except some questions like comparison between sociology and economy, sociology and political science. In that case, you will draw 2 columns and you can write this is economy, this is political science. You can make comparison like points, but otherwise you will never see a sociologist writing in bullet points. You cannot do that. You should not be doing it actually.
Okay, sir.
Because it's all about perspective, and the writing shows the character. Writing shows the maturity that you have, and that without that you should write as a sociologist, obviously that is what expected, not as a student. When the sociology papers are actually evaluated by the top sociologist only, from Delhi University, JNU, okay, etc. But GS papers are evaluated by the +2 teachers. And for optional paper, it's all about the person who's evaluating. There is no such answer course or anything. If you feel it good, he'll give you mark. GS, it's all about answer key. Objectively, you need to write. You put the point, you'll get the mark. Sociology, it's not like that. So you need to know which person you're addressing, and based on that, you need to write. So GS, you can do that. You can do anything, but in sociology, you cannot do that. Okay. So here, okay, we don't want to waste too much of time. So that's what class polarization. The class will be polarized into any of the two. Then we basically need to talk about, I missed out one point, this concept class in itself and class for itself. See, only these words looks difficult, otherwise it's easy. The definition of class that we have discussed, that's what class in itself. It is an objective criteria. Objective criteria. So class in itself, like the positions that we are saying, managers, workers, clerks, all these are objective criteria to understand class. That means your position in the production process, and that's what class in itself. What you need to write here is objective criteria, but Marx also uses a subjective criteria to understand class. Subjective criteria. So subjective criteria means when the workers, for example, in capitalist society, when they develop some consciousness, and there will be a feeling that, we are working for the class. So you then become for the class for itself. So class in itself is an objective criteria, just basic definition of class. Class for itself means the same class when they develop some consciousness of belongingness to the class and knowing the exploitation that they're facing, and they're ready to work for the class. See, simply we are talking about managers, doctors, etc. They just go, they work, and they come back. But if there is an association among them, then there's a subjective criteria, right? That class is ready to work for the class. That's what class for itself. Then when this consciousness comes, class in itself become class for itself. For that, what is the condition? There may be exploitation. See, all these associations, etc., is there for what? To prevent them from problems, right? All these associations, basically, they try to prevent them from problems, more working hours, less salaries. These are the demands for them, right? They will take care of all these issues. So that's what class 4 itself. Very simple. The normal definition, which is based on objective criteria, that is the position in the production process, is class in itself. There is nothing complicated in that. That's what the normal case. But this class, when develops some consciousness, that become class 4 itself. Okay. Now this consciousness can be two types. It can be true consciousness. It can be false consciousness. So true consciousness means appropriate system of ideology, appropriate system of leadership. Everything will be correct and you will work for the betterment of yourself and you will be able to change also. False consciousness may be because of the false notion. I'll give you examples when we discuss about class struggle. For example, ancient mode of production to feudal mode of production. There was a class for itself and they went for the revolt, but that was based on false consciousness. What happened? Ultimately, the masters become feudal lords and the slaves became serfs. So they were not able to change their condition. Similarly, feudal mode to capitalist mode of production, it is based on false consciousness. Why? The feudal lords became capitalist and serfs became workers and they are still facing the exploitation. But in capitalist mode of production, with proper ideology, proper set of leadership and proper organization, they were able to stop the exploitation. So this is based on true consciousness. Okay, I'll talk more about consciousness when we discuss about the struggle in the next part. So this much is okay. We have understood what is class in itself, what is class for itself, what is class polarization and bourgeoisization and proletarianization. This is very important. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any doubts here?
No, sir.
Consciousness means it can be true consciousness, it can be false consciousness. It is some kind of togetherness, some kind of common problems which is coming to your mind. So when the workers develop some consciousness, like the workers unite, okay, all these are part of consciousness. Otherwise, you simply go and work. That is an objective criteria, your position. Workers are aware about their common problems, etc. That's what we mean by consciousness. Okay. Now, class struggle. When we talk about class struggle, this is actually the theory, but to understand class struggle, we need to understand the class. That's why we have discussed the first part. So having done with the first part, class struggle is like this. First, we'll see the reasons. Okay, 3 reasons. First reason, you understand, with change in society, contradictions will be there. To overcome contradictions, some solutions will be there. Material conditions will change. How the change will happen first? The change will happen first in terms of change in forces of production, right? There will be advancements in technology, there will be advancements in tools, etc. Like I'm taking this class just with this pen and an iPad, right? I'm using only this iPad pencil and this iPad to deliver this lecture. There is no infrastructure required, there is no other staffs required, nothing is required for this particular situation, right? So basically, this is what you say means of production changed or forces of production changed. Okay, now when the forces of production change, I've told you before, it will result into change in relations of production. Okay, for example, earlier you might have gone to a coaching institute. Let's suppose there's a coaching institute X. Okay, you might have gone to this coaching institute. Now, because of the situation, you cannot go to the coaching institute. So there is a new technology which is coming that the forces of production are changing. So you are shifting to that person who's having that technology. I've given you example in that case of farmer. Like farmer, farmer X, he was having a better connection with Y in the traditional society or before, because for example, for the tilling of the land, he is depending on the farmer, this person Y, and he is using traditional method like bullocks, etc. But with advancement in technology, when tractors came, this person Z. Z is the owner of the tractor. So X is now looking for this person so that you can do it better and you get more productivity. You can pluck the soil so good. So all these are advantage. So what happened? There was a relation here, and that relation now changed to this. So when the forces of production change, relations of production change. Exactly like in your case, you would have joined some coaching institute, but now what happened? You joined with me. So what actually happened is the relation of production has changed from somewhere to here. Okay. So what will happen? There will be a conflict with this existing people and the new people. Like this person and this person, there will be a conflict. So what I'm saying is we are talking about the reasons for class struggle. First reason is there will be continuous development in forces of production. When the forces of production change, the relations will change, and it is essential. If this guy is still continuing with this person, he is treated as a fool, because by moving to this person, he can ensure maximum productivity here. Similarly, you are not sitting, the coaching classes are stopped. That doesn't mean that you need to stop your preparation. If you stop that, you are considered as fool, right? So changing relations are essential with the changing forces of production. When that happens, there will be a conflict between this, the existing, and the new. Is that understood? That is the first reason. When you put it in paragraph, you'll understand more, but this is how the first reason I can explain. Okay? No?
Yes. Yes, all okay.
Okay, sir.
The second reason, it is very simple. Any mode of production, if you see, there will be haves and have-nots, right? So two classes are there. And any mode of production, their interests are contradictory. For example, if you take workers and capitalists, workers' interest and capitalist interest are contradictory. We have discussed this point many times. So I hope you know this. Workers want to work for less time with more wages and better working conditions. You need ACs and everything. But for capitalist, he want the workers to work less time with less wages and not that good working condition, as it is unnecessary expense for capitalist. So their interests are contradictory, and that's what we have discussed as antagonist cooperation in the previous session. Okay, so here their interests are contradictory, but still they are cooperating, and this contradictory interest will result into conflict. So this antagonism means conflict only. Okay, so Marx uses this words antagonism or conflict, okay, or struggle, all are same. So when we talk about class struggle, if you get a question on class conflict, it is the same, or class antagonism, it is the same. All are actually same. So don't be confused here. So antagonistic relation, since the interests are contradictory, so that result into struggle. So that is the second reason, very simple. Third reason, I'll tell you now, but you don't want to worry about that. It is very simple. That is your next theory actually. So once we're done with next theory, you will understand more. But as of now, you understand. Third reason is alienation. Third reason is alienation. You are alienated as a worker. You are alienated from the entire process of production. You are not getting any freedom. You are not getting any facility. So and you are facing a lot of problems. There is a big alienation is there. So we will discuss that theory of alienation in tomorrow. Then you will understand it much better. So third reason is alienation, and these are the three reasons why class struggle is actually happening, or these are the reasons for class struggle. Okay, so first reason, when the forces of production change, there will be a change in relation of production. So the existing relations of production and the changed new relations of production will come into a conflict. Second reason, there is an inherent interests are contradictory, okay, among two classes. So when the interests are contradictory, that will result into conflict. Third one, alienation. Three reasons are clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So as of now, we talked about class in itself, class for itself, definition of class polarization, and the reasons for struggle. Now we will see how the struggle is actually happening. Okay, so first, primitive communism. Now we will talk about the same thing that we have discussed, and that's the advantage. You can write the same thing, but not in that detail. That much detail is not required. So from primitive communism to ancient mode of production. So in ancient mode of production, you will see the first struggle. Between whom? Between
Masters and slaves.
masters and slaves, you will see the first struggle. right? So I've told you here, masters, there is a group, okay, masters, and let's say this is a group of slaves, okay. So between them, there is a cooperation, and this cooperation is like antagonist cooperation, and here there will be a struggle, okay. Why the struggle is actually happening is because within masters, there is a small group emerge, okay. So this, I can say, emerging class, these people are the agents of what? Settled agriculture, okay. So they are the agents of settled agriculture. So within masters, there is an emerging class. They have identified a different mode of production that is related to settled agriculture. So they need to come out of this mode of production, existing mode of production. So they actually aid this people like this. They will support these slaves to go for this revolt and to enter into settled agriculture. This is how it is actually happening. So that is the reason why I have told you the slaves, even though mode of production changed, slaves become serfs, and these people will become lords. So that's why I've told you this is based on false consciousness. You may be thinking that in the next mode of production, your life will be better, but because you have control over production, you know how to produce everything, but you're still dependent on lords for land and protection. Okay, and these people will exploit you. So this is actually based on false consciousness. Even though slaves revolt, slaves consciousness will be there, but it is false consciousness, as they cannot change the situation. They are eventually satisfying the interest of these people, few. Okay, so those who are the agents of settled agriculture. And similarly, what is the mature condition? First, when we talk about mature condition, exploitation is the first condition. Then you can see here, there is a possibility of another mode of production. Similarly, when we talk of this feudal system, there is a group of lords, feudal lords, and there is a group of serfs. So here there will be an emerging class related to what? This emerging class related to? Tell me, in industry. They are related to industry, right? So these people, between them, there will be a revolt. So these emerging class will support the revolt, because in feudalism, the concept is tied, the serfs are tied to the land. But in industry, what is required is free labor. So the emerging class need the serfs to be freed from the land so that you'll get the laborers. So what is their motive? Their motive is to free these people from the land. So they support the revolt, and serf will go for the revolt when the exploitation reaches at its peak, and alternately you can see an alternate mode of production to go. So they will become workers by thinking that you can sell your labor at any point which is required, but ultimately you have to work. If you are not working, you cannot survive. So that's why I've told you this is also based on false consciousness. The serfs become worker, the erstwhile slaves become worker, and this group will become capitalist. Okay, this group will become capitalist. So this is also based on false consciousness. But in capitalist mode of production, when the exploitation reaches at its peak, okay, and then appropriate system of the workers will be organized with appropriate system of ideas, etc., which is expected by Marx, which is a futuristic concept. And then they will work for the betterment of them, and there is no new alternate mode of production also coming, so they have no other choice, and the workers will take control of everything else, this organization of production and everything. Workers will take control, and that lead to socialism, where the workers will rule, which is a transitional stage, and it will finally culminate into communism. So this is what class struggle, this is how class struggle is operating. The same thing that you have discussed yesterday, only thing is that you need to add a diagram like this in between. That's it. Nothing separate, nothing special, nothing new, nothing more. Is this okay? Can we move to PF?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Sir,
Yes.
so that means you're saying that when the society moves from socialist to communism, it is a true consciousness.
No. Capitalism to socialism, it is true
Yeah,
consciousness.
that's a true consciousness.
Yes. Because they are able to solve the problems.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
In other stages, yeah, they are not able to solve the problem. They are just, there will be a fight, there will be a revolt, but they are
Okay,
not
sir.
ultimately able to solve problems. That problem remain the
Okay,
same.
sir. So it was their false assumption that they are
Yeah,
going to change.
false assumption that they will be able to live a better life,
Okay, sir.
but that's not true.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Can you see this screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So first, understanding class. Understanding of class occupy a central position in Marx's systemic view of society. Man enters into relation with others for the satisfaction of needs through production. This is through. Okay. You need to correct it. Anyway, I had message already sent you the PDF, so you can correct it through production. These relations place individuals in different positions, creating abstract strata-like formation. So there will be stratas, and these stratas are termed as classes. So these stratas are termed as classes. According to Marx, men are born in societies where these relations have already been determined. That is, by birth, men are born in classes. He states, just as a man cannot choose who is to be his father, he has no choice with respect to his class. As to his class, yeah. Marx frequently used the term class, but he defines it scarcely. In his later works, particularly Das Kapital, he defines class as a group of people sharing the same position in the production process. So this is class. People sharing the same position in the production process. Okay, so this is definition. This definition is based on an objective criteria pertaining to person's position in the broad property relation. Okay. Marx terms this class as class in itself. We have discussed this. I don't think any confusion is here. In his other writings, Marx
I have
also
a doubt.
uses
So what's this broad property relation?
broad property relation means the capitalist worker, ownership, non-ownership, that kind of relation.
Okay.
That relation which is related to the forces of production. If
Okay.
if you own the forces of production, you will become haves. If you
Yeah.
don't own the forces of production, you will become have-nots. Simple.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sir. Clear.
Marx terms this class as class in itself. Okay. In his other writings, Marx also uses a subjective criteria to define class. Make it as criteria. This is also correct, but criteria is better. To define class, he frequently referred to class for itself for the class which developed some consciousness. So when the class develops some consciousness, that is class for itself. That's a subjective criteria. The members of a particular class will develop a consciousness of belonging to the same class. Class for itself comes into existence. Okay, workers of the world unite, etc. All are examples. Now, types of class. Marx broadly defined two types of class in every society: haves and have-nots. Haves occupy the dominant position in terms of power, status, economic resources, whereas the have-nots are subordinates. In an ancient society, masters are haves and slaves are have-nots. Okay, feudal society, landlords are haves and serfs are have-nots. Capitalist society, we know that. Okay, we have discussed it already. Apart from this, in his other books like Revolutions and Counter-Revolutions in Germany and Class Struggle in France, Marx mentions other intermediate classes also. For example, he talks of some 8 classes in the former book and 6 classes in the latter. That means in this he's talking about 8 classes, and here he's talking about, you don't want to know all those different classes. He's giving references to intermediate classes. Similarly, There are references to other classes like petty bourgeois, like traders, lumpen proletariat, the poorest of the poor, etc. In spite of all these variations, Marx is of the opinion that with time, all intermediate classes will be absorbed into two poles, okay, that is haves and have-nots. So anyway, you will become either this group or this group through a process of class polarization. A very important concept. The question can be asked from here, short note. Okay, you need to prepare like what I've told you. This content itself is enough. You don't want to read anything for that. For that matter, for Marx, you don't want to read anything. So this is, you can indicate like this. This process is bourgeoisization, like this. This is bourgeoisization, and this is proletarianization. So actually, this you can write here. You need to write here, and this bourgeoisization you need to write here, like that. Okay, so overall it is class polarization. So this process involves bourgeoisization and proletarianization. Thus, during the course of history, within a particular society, as exploitation increases, class polarization will take place. The idea of polarization and transformation of class in itself and class for itself introduces an element of dynamism in Marxian analysis. These are junk paragraphs, not that significant here. This dynamism is understood by the concept of consciousness, which is generated by material condition. See, the consciousness is actually generated by material condition. It all depends on material condition. If the exploitation is more, the consciousness will develop like that. Now here, explain Max Weber. What I mean to explain is the one which we have discussed, like this diamond shape and the hexagonal shape. That means middle class is getting stronger. That we have already discussed, okay? So you can add there. If this question is asked, you can actually write this as criticism. In the context of capitalism, Marx states that inevitability of monopoly, exploitation of consumers, workers, and frequent economic instances such as inflation, slums, depreciation, absence of centralized planning will result in increasing consciousness of the masses. The state is controlled by the haves and will work for the satisfaction of their interest. I've told you now before the statement, the parliament is an executive committee of bourgeois and will take decisions for the satisfaction of them. The policies will be for them, like that. The contradiction will generate consciousness among the have-nots. The consciousness is understood at two, but all these we will criticize later. We will criticize Marxian idea about state, etc. is not true. It is democratic. So people are electing, and it is more concerned about welfare of the people. Those are criticisms. We'll come to that. And we don't have that theory also. Only we will confine to the syllabus. So here the contradictions will generate consciousness among have-nots. The consciousness is understood at two levels: true consciousness and false consciousness. You can read it, you will understand false consciousness, that it does not transcend, it's being rooted in the economically competitive means of production. In other words, the consciousness which is rooted in social being has been referred to as false consciousness. So the consciousness in the minds of the social being is the false consciousness. For example, workers are aware about their common problem. Workers demand more benefit, etc. Okay. Economically competitive mode of production here, not means of production. True consciousness, according to Marx, when the economic conditions are right, that means when the exploitation is more, when the workers are united by solidarity and are energized by appropriate system of ideas, which aims at transformation of the system for the benefit of all, true consciousness emerges. These moments occur when the existing modes, this is modes of production is played out, and Marx terms these moments are revolutionary. Every time we have discussed about when the mature condition exists, there will be revolt. So these are revolutionary. Okay. Then, now we will move on to class struggle. According to Marx, people are woven into relations of production. ROP is relations of production, which involves antagonistic cooperation. We have discussed this. In each mode of production, two classes enter into struggle or antagonism or conflict. All are the same. You can get, instead of class struggle, class antagonism or class conflict. All are the same, which keeps on increasing. Like ancient mode to feudal mode, there is an increase. To capitalism, there is an increase. When reaches at its peak, we'll move to socialism. There won't be any class struggle. The process of this class struggle is not smooth and is mediated by a number of factors. In his book, like Preface to Communist Manifesto, class struggle in France, he talked about class struggle. So the process of class struggle is like this. We can see here. First one, yeah, this is the reasons. Okay, now here you can actually give a subheading, reasons. Okay. So due to changes in forces of production, when the forces of production change, you have to change the relations. So that is essential. These new relations of production come into conflict with the existing relations and thereby initiating a class struggle. That is first reason. For example, in feudal system, the factories emerged, but work is compatible with the feudal way of life. Factories require free labor, whereas feudalism requires people tied to their lands. Second one, according to Marx, there is an inherent contradiction between haves and have-nots. That is, their interests are contradictory. So that is the second reason. Like I have explained here, capitalist tries to maximize profit, labor tries to maximize wages. Both are contradictory. Third one, Marx also explained class struggle in terms of alienation. We will do this. This is your next theory. So separately, you will understand it more rather than unnecessarily spending time by explaining it here. I'll explain it in a much better way tomorrow. Which reaches at its peak in capitalism. Alienation goes like this. Let's suppose this is primitive communism. It will increase in ancient mode. It will increase in further in feudal mode. It will reach at its peak in capitalism, will reduce in socialism, will end in communism. So this is how, that's what this sentence, it reaches at its peak in capitalism. I'll explain this tomorrow with this graph also. Don't worry about this. Okay, so here what is alienation is what discussed. Just leave it for tomorrow. We don't want to read it now. Now, mechanism of class struggle. Throughout history, in different mode of production, the mechanism of class struggle differs. During ancient mode of production, slaves launched a struggle against masters. The slave struggle is aided by, this is very important, aided by an emerging class, which are the representative of new forces of production relating to settled agriculture. This emerging class constitute of masters who are the pioneers of new mode of production. So that's how we have represented here. Within masters, this within masters, emerging class who are the pioneers of this actually supporting this revolt. Okay. Similarly, okay. Thus, slave struggles are based on false consciousness. Why? Eventually satisfying the interest of whom? Middle class. The struggle, even though they struggle, but eventually satisfy the interest of the middle class, because not middle class, this emerging class, because they become the lords and these people will become the serfs. Okay. So similarly, in feudal mode of production, the serf revolution was aided by the emerging class relating to factory system, as factories require free labor. So they support this revolt. The serfs had to be freed from land, which in turn meant playing out of feudal mode of production. Like this, same. Okay, so these are entire group of feudal lords, but emerging class, they are the agents of factory system. Okay, so they want free labor, but serfs are tied in the land because of this mode of production. So they want a new mode of production. So they support this revolt. Thus, the serf revolution is also based on false consciousness, right? Because the serfs becoming workers and the emerging class becoming the capitalist. So they are eventually satisfying the interest of the emerging class, and still they face problem. Why false consciousness? Because of the false notion or the false belief that they will be free to work, they will get wages when they work. If they don't want to work. But will that really happen in capitalist system? No. In fact, you are forced to or compelled to work. Not physically, but you have to go for work. Otherwise, you cannot survive. So in capitalist mode of production, workers don't have any alternative. No new forces of production were emerging. In 19th century, workers' exploitation and alienation reaches at its peak. Guided by an appropriate system of ideology, workers' revolution will be based on true consciousness. This revolution, according to Marx, is true revolution. Thus, he states, history repeats itself first as tragedy, second as farce. That means from ancient mode to feudal mode, it's a kind of tragedy, right? And even more, you will see feudal to capitalism. So that's what you mean to say. History repeats itself first as tragedy, then as farce. Even more a difficult version. Workers' revolution will result in the establishment of socialist mode of production, where workers control power and there will be only one class and there will be no class struggle. Thus, Marx states, history of hitherto existing societies are the history of class struggle. That means any existing society, if you take, that's the history of class struggle. Okay, so all these can be asked as, see, instead of asking class struggles directly, they will ask you like this only. History of hitherto existing society is the history of class struggle. Explain or discuss, etc. Or critically analyze, you need to write this theory only. Class struggle act as motor of history, right? Thus, Marx assumes the struggle between classes is a fundamental condition for social change. So social change, what is the most fundamental condition? Struggle between two classes. The struggle aims at what? Resolving the contradictions. This society contradiction, struggle for solving this. So enter into new society. Here contradiction like this. So you can say this is ancient mode, this is feudal mode, capitalism, then again contradiction, socialism, and will finally end in communism. So that's the idea. Now, while talking of change, Marx differentiate between gradual quantitative change and sudden qualitative change. The gradual quantitative change means the advancements in technology, etc. This is quantitative change in terms of means of production, the way you produce things like tools, techniques, etc. These are gradual quantitative change. Sudden qualitative change means it is a new mode of production altogether. That means feudalism to capitalism. That's the difference. So quantitative changes are actually happening within mode of production. Within mode of production, quantitative change will be there. When we talk about qualitative change, what does that mean? It is a change of mode of production. So here, this is a change in MOP. This is a change of MOP. That mode of production itself will be changed. That is, so here, what is necessary? Revolution. Revolution is necessary. Okay, that's what written here. The class struggle keeps on increasing within a particular mode of production due to gradual quantitative changes like increase in exploitation, force of production, tools, techniques, means of production, etc. The sudden qualitative change occurs because of revolution, which is a culmination of class struggle, and revolution occurs only when the mature conditions are present. These mature conditions constitute a situation such that men now realize that how productive forces rob them of self-determination and freedom. The revolution is possible only if there is an appropriate network of communication between workers and leaders, critical mass of workers having true consciousness, very important, clear perception of common enemy, appropriate organization and ideology, etc. In another text, In another text, Marx also takes into consideration the geographical and cultural condition playing important role in revolution. So here we have already talked about material condition, no? The changes in material condition, etc. But he is also talking about cultural condition and geographical reasons also, but this is not significant. Towards the end, we are just writing one line only. Okay, so what I've written here is qualitative change, change of mode of production, quantitative change, change in mode of production. I hope you understood this.
Yes, sir.
Any doubts?
In the false consciousness, in the diagram we see from the slaves there is a dark arrow that if you can just go to that PDF, there's a dark line coming from the slaves to the emerging class. So is it like some people or some person from the slaves category class, they are coming into emerging class?
No, not
I
like
just
that.
saw
I'm
in
just
the
drawing that I'm just making a connection between emerging class and slaves, so that basically emerging class is supporting the slaves.
okay,
Not somebody want to come to emerging class or something like that.
got it.
Already the conflict is going to happen, but this process is actually aided by the emerging class because they want the new mode of production. Then they will benefit more.
Got it.
Sir, can you explain me the web concept of the diamond shape which you told? It was not clear. So can you explain me again, sir?
Which one? Which one?
Weber's concept of that diamond shape.
Weber concept means, see, okay, what Marx says, Marx is giving this concept, right? At the top, upper class are very few, and lower class very much more. Okay, so with time, what Marx says is, there are some intermediate classes here and there, but this will come here and this will come here. So basically, this is the diagram in which you can understand Marxian concept of class polarization. So what Weber says, over a period of time, this not happened. Class polarization has not happened. Or if class polarization has happened, class actually polarized to middle class. Many people from lower class became middle class. Many from upper class also became middle class. So this is what happened. So middle classes got strengthened. But Marx says the different. Marx says from middle, it will go to upper or lower. It is exactly the opposite. Weber says middle class got strengthened. Whether it is a hexagonal diagram or here also, both are better to explain Weber. So here also you can say middle class got strengthened.
Okay, sir.
Something was asked by somebody. Ramesh, I forgot your question. Can you ask? Class for itself and true consciousness in contemporary society? No, contemporary society, that is Marx visualization. When the workers will revolt, it will be based on true consciousness. That's a conception of Marx. That's a dream of Marx, in fact. Marx is thinking that will happen. Or you can take all these associations, the workers' associations, etc. So some new policies, some, for example, management increase working hours. Let's say working hours, management increase, let's say 30 minutes. So immediately what will happen? The workers will go for strike, right? And they will make a compromise here. So that is based on true consciousness. They are working for themselves and they were able to achieve it. So the idea is the consciousness is there. It can be false or true, whether you're able to change yourself or are you able to meet the objective, then it is true consciousness. But Marx talking about true consciousness in terms of socialism, that is a broad concept. Here, contemporary example, if you ask me, this can also be considered as true consciousness. Not relevant in Marxian context though. Ramesh, I hope you understood. Okay.
Sir,
So
Wanda,
yeah.
can you give me the contemporary example for quantitative change?
Quantitative change means, see, before I used to teach with markers and dusters and whiteboard. Now I'm just using this pen and sitting in my home.
Yes.
Okay, these are quantitative advancements in the
Education.
forces of production.
Yeah. Okay.
But this developments will go and it will make a big revolution. Entire education system will be like this in future maybe. Nobody will go to see all these things are unnecessary. Going to schools, traveling expense, time. All these are unnecessary. Now people are realizing that. Now people will simply sit in home. Why to go to Delhi? Even during my time, it was very difficult for me to go to Delhi, and the climate, the food, everything was so difficult. So now there is no point of doing that.
I understand. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else? So, see, I have told you that you will not face any problem in theories, and I'm expecting that you're understanding it properly. Theories are the core of sociology. So you should not miss anything. You should not face any problem in theories. After that, sociology is just a cakewalk. It's so simple.
So one question, can you explain that foreign production and another one was, I forgot that actually, it was there in the PDF. There are two concepts actually, foreign production and the other one was
Which production?
okay, if I'm not able to, Okay, so I will do one thing. I will read out the PDF. Okay, so I will point out that and I will ask tomorrow. No issues.
Okay. Okay. What else? Anything else? Yeah, Himanshu.
Sir, is it okay if you share the PDF just before the class or just
I've
after
shared that
the?
today. Today I've shared.
Okay.
No,
Sorry,
no, no.
I
I
didn't
didn't
see.
share.
Sorry. I didn't check it actually.
Okay,
Maybe.
okay. I think I didn't. I forgot.
No,
Actually,
sir, you didn't.
okay. In fact,
Yeah.
I also want to share the PDF, but I forget most of the time. Even morning also I have class, so I get into that, then I forget it. I'll share it. Even I also want to share that so that you can have a read. You can read that, and it will be very easy. Even to me also, it will be easy. I'll share it.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a problem.
What problem?
Hello?
Yeah.
Sir, I have a problem with previous class. Sir,
What?
how to explain the role of being?
Who's
Yesterday
this?
you have explained, Sir Shikharai.
Shiga. Yeah, tell me.
Sir, yesterday you have explained about being and social being. Then how
Yeah.
to explain the role of being?
Role of being is like in communist society, you will become yourself. That you will not be understood as a you will not be treated, or you will not be valued in terms of your position in the production process. You will be yourself. That's what when we talk about being. That's what I've told you. Communism deprives no man of the power to appropriate the product of society. All what it does is to deprive him of the power to subjugate the others in terms of such appropriation. That means you can do whatever you want. You can express your creativity. And being is a creative humanism. You can contribute to the society the way you want without being a doctor, without being a engineer, etc.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, I'm confused in quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative is within existing mode of production if there is change.
In simple terms, it is the change in the mode of production within existing mode of production. Like you said,
Change
in the mode of production.
that is quantitative.
Quantitative. Qualitative means what? Entire system.
Entire MOP will change.
Entire system is changing. Yes.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. When we talk of being, I'll give you a very famous statement according to Marx. It's actually like this. See, I've told you, being can do anything. Being, nobody will be, nobody is there to evaluate him. Nobody is there to give him marks or anything. It's like this. Marx has given a statement. He's explaining the concept of total man. Being is the total man. So the statement is like this. I hope you can understand from that statement itself, and you should be writing that statement also. I'll give it to you tomorrow. That it is possible for me to do one thing today, one tomorrow, okay, to hunt in the morning, to fish in the afternoon, rear cattle in the evening, and criticize after dinner. I can do anything I want, but I have a mind without being a hunter, a fisherman, a herdsman, and a critic. You understood? I will not be branded as any of this. I am not a hunter, I am not a fisherman, I am not a herdsman, I am not a critic. But I can do all these.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Shiga, yeah.
Yes, sir.
It's a very beautiful statement. I'll explain that tomorrow. I actually kept that statement for alienation, more relevant for alienation. Because the being will be more understood when you are free from alienation. So alienation theory is very important and very good also. And Marx's questions will be mostly from statements. You'll get the statement and they will ask you to come and critically analyze, etc. But seeing the statement, you will understand it is coming from this particular topic, etc. You will understand easily and you will be able to write also.
Okay, sir.
Can we stop today?
Yes,
Any
sir.
others? Any doubt? You can ask me now if you have any doubt. Or you can keep it for tomorrow also. You can read the PDF and you can ask me tomorrow. Yeah, Ganga, you have any doubt?
Yes, sir. Small doubt. So socialism is about one class. Marx suggesting one class in the socialism. Is it right?
Marx is talking about the rule of workers in socialism. Only
Yeah.
one class.
In communism, it's a no class or one class.
No class at all. Everybody is equal.
Oh, that also suggested by Marx only, no, sir?
Yeah, Marx only talking about that. That will never happen. Even socialism, when we talk about one class, that is only workers and workers are ruling. So there also some problems will be there. They will take revenge against the erstwhile capitalist.
Okay.
So it can be lead to a bloodshed. It is going to be a big revolution. So there can be issues there. So we don't want to talk too much about socialism. Just understand only one class in socialism: workers. It is all about workers' rule. So in communism, workers will renounce their power.
All are equal.
Yeah, all are equal.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Why some people are joining now? Mohan, Parul. Why joining now? We are over. We are done.
No, sir. Actually, now connection is disconnected, sir.
Okay. So you were there.
Sir?
You were there in class?
Yes, sir. I have attended. Sir, actually, I have not attended yesterday's class. Please share the video, sir.
I'll share yesterday's class. After some time, I'll share.
I'm waiting, sir.
Yeah. Okay, we'll stop now. See you guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bye, sir.
Bye, sir.
Yeah.